Hi, my name is Dave McGinty and I'm the co-founder of Walnut Wasp, a creative agency that specialises in all kinds of marketing services for small businesses, wedding suppliers, food and beverage businesses. I want to say thanks very much for joining us for episode 3 of our Wedding Marketing 101 series, and thanks also for all the great feedback we've had so far for episodes 1 and 2 in the series. We've had great participation, loads of people asking questions in the Facebook group, loads of people getting in touch to say that they're enjoying the content, so really pleased with that, and hopefully you continue to get some value of this and then the final episode on spending money on marketing. But this one here, this is about content marketing and social strategy, and what we're going to try and do is help you to understand how you can use content marketing as part of your own marketing strategy, and also to help you understand how in the sort of modern social media landscape with organic reach dropping and with the changes that have been announced to Facebook's newsfeed algorithm, how we can sort of adapt our social strategy to fit, and what kind of new expectations we might have from our social strategy as well. So I'm going to start by defining some terms, and I want to talk firstly about content marketing. So content marketing we've touched on in the previous episode a little bit when we did our keyword research. Content marketing is basically the idea that you're going to give your audience a gift of genuinely meaningful and useful content of some kind. What kind of content are we talking about? Well, it could be entertaining content, so it could just be you're producing stuff that's genuinely entertaining. It could be informative content that helps them to understand more about a particular subject, or it could be content with some kind of specific utility or use. Hopefully, so what you're watching just now is a piece of content marketing, and hopefully we fall into the latter two categories. I'm not too sure how entertaining these blockbusters have been, but hopefully they're informative and hopefully they're of some utility to the people that are watching. The idea though is that you're giving away your knowledge of a subject to your prospective customer. So that's kind of a novel concept. It requires, first of all, I identify my prospective customer, and in this case I'm talking to our wedding market customers. So as I said before, we specialise in wedding marketing because we've been involved in that sector for a long time in our previous lives, both me and my co-founder Gil. So we focus on that as part of what we do. And how can we offer value to people who are in the wedding market? Well, we can share a bunch of information that we already have on how we have used communication and marketing to build our own businesses, and we can give away as much of that information as we can by way of building relationships with these new prospective customers that are watching right now. So sorry to shatter the illusion. Obviously what we're genuinely trying to do is create value and create an experience for you that is worthwhile, and we're giving that away for free with no strings attached. So there really is no requirement for you to engage with us in order to get basically all of the content that we have here. But at the same time, what we are doing is we are building a relationship with you and vice versa, such that in 6 months' time, when you come to reconsider your own marketing strategy or to develop your brand, who do you go to for that? Well, you have an existing relationship now with this organisation that have provided you with some value in the past. That's the theory of content marketing in general, and that's certainly the theory of what we've tried to accomplish with this series. Primarily though, it really does come down to, it has to be a gift first and foremost, and it has to be of genuine and true value. And so that's why, like I said, we're trying to pack these episodes with as much useful stuff that you can utilise without necessarily there being any barriers, or without you having to get in touch with us, or without you having to hire us to do X, Y, or Z. Benefits of content marketing: you would hope for increased SEO performance because you're creating content that responds to the needs of a certain audience, and you would therefore hope that a certain amount of search terms would produce your content in the results. So the more you can fuel that with bespoke content that's rich and that's engaging, the more chance you have of showing up in relevant search results, of course. You would also hope that developing a content marketing strategy would give you additional social reach and engagement, especially engagement. You would hope that by creating this stuff that is designed to help your prospective customer in some aspect of their journey, you would hope to be able to nurture a two-way conversation with them, not necessarily customer to supplier, but simply in this case in the wedding industry, we're probably talking about some form of wedding inspiration. So you would hope to be able to have conversations with prospective customers on social media about this general subject of wedding inspiration, instead of it necessarily being you only communicate with those people directly when you're in a kind of sales focused environment. That's the theory, and of course with everything to do with your social strategy and with everything to do with creating content, it really is an experiment. Sometimes that's not going to work. Sometimes you create this stuff that you love and you'll put it into the world. Just for whatever reason isn't connecting up. This is one of those situations where you have to put yourself out there and try something. Like I said, when it comes to this wedding marketing 101 content, this was largely an experiment, and so far we feel it's going really, really well, because we're in conversations now with a bunch of new people in our market. But you just never know until you try it, and unfortunately sometimes you'll put some resource and effort into creating some content marketing material that just doesn't connect for whatever reason. In general, the types of content I'm talking about when I talk about content marketing could be things like blogs, so in-depth blogs that are intended to help your prospective customer with some aspect of their wedding planning or their wedding inspiration. Video content. Video content is a great sort of relatively uncompetitive. I mean, video is very competitive, but from the point of view that there are more barriers of entry to video. It's easier to write a blog than it is to produce a video of a certain kind of production standard. Similarly, YouTube as a search engine, second biggest in the world, but potentially less competitive than trying to land on the first page of Google for whatever your chosen subject is. Audio content, which really can be an offshoot of your video content. Micro content, so basically long form social media posts. That's a form of content marketing. So if you do just a spotlight on an image, if you're a photographer and you love this image that you've taken and you just want to talk about it a little bit, that kind of a long post on Facebook can be a piece of content marketing, because you're entering into a potential conversation, you're saying something. In that case, it's, I guess, informative and to some extent a little bit of entertainment for your prospective audience. The good thing about that kind of thing is it can just really convey your passion for the subject matter. So what I'm going to do later in this episode is I'm going to talk us through how we produce a piece of content marketing, and it's going to be this series that we're talking about, and then how we deliver that on social media, and then we're going to look at sort of what are some of the positive impacts that we get back as a result of that. In general, how this ties into your social strategy. Again, your social strategy at this point in time is going to have to be engagement based. It's going to have to be about creating a meaningful conversation with your prospective customers. We're reaching the end of the era where we can put sales focused material onto the news feeds of our customers and expect, one, to be able to do that in an economical fashion at all, and two, to have any response from it. So much noise, so much competition, so much refocusing on the part of the major social networks to a better audience experience, that basically using Facebook as a platform to deliver a sales focused ad that's about you and your service exclusively is no longer going to be economically viable or particularly rewarding to do, I think. And certainly that's already the case to a great extent now, and it seems that the direction of travel is such that that's just going to that's going to become more true as time goes on. So instead, what we're trying to do with a social strategy is develop this kind of thinking, this kind of content marketing thinking, this idea of giving value to the prospective customer with no strings attached, on the basis that some of them are going to come back to you and they're going to have used the fact that you've built a relationship with them and given them this stuff. They're going to recognise within that you have certain skills, that you're a good fit for them, or they're going to connect with your personality or whatever it might be. So when it comes to your social strategy, that's what we really want to bear in mind, is that we are engagement focused at this point. We want to engage, we want to have a genuine and meaningful two-way conversation with our customers. Let's consider first then the context in which your prospective customer discovers you on social media. So generally speaking, when you are landing on someone's feed on Facebook, Instagram, generally speaking, and you're doing so with a view to sell them a product, or you're doing so with a view to making them aware of your business. So you're interrupting an experience, because that person, generally speaking, is not on Facebook researching their wedding in most cases. So you're interrupting an experience, first of all, and it's very, very important to be cognizant of that piece of information, because that should affect every creative decision you make with the copy on your post and with the stuff that you choose to show them. You're interrupting them. They're not here to learn about you, but here you are on their feed. So the customer is not wedding planning focused at that point. That means they're not in an active buying mode. They're in a passive mode here. They're not looking to compare suppliers. So very rarely, therefore, would we be looking to emphasize the features of our business. And I say that because whenever we're producing, for example, Google AdWords, so that's a context in which someone is looking for a service. So if someone's looking for a wedding photographer and you want to appear on that Google search page, so you spend some money on Google AdWords, well, that customer is in an active buying mode. So it's quite appropriate to describe to them the features of your business, the things about your business that are unique to you and all the rest of it. When we're talking about you interrupting a social media experience, they're not in this active buying mode at all. It's very possible that they're going to ultimately buy from you. That's absolutely possible. In fact, Facebook is one of the best platforms in the world, I believe, still for advertising, even though those challenges are getting more and more tough to overcome. But in terms of the targeting and all the rest of it, it's the most sophisticated targeting platform in the world, remarketing, etc. So they're not going to be comparing features, so you're not going to want to jump in there and start talking to them about features. What you're instead going to want to do is take those features of your business and convert them into, well, what are the benefits? What is the emotional touch point for the customer? What is the problem that's being solved for the customer? So we're not going to want to emphasize that, hey, we're a photographer that's going to stay all day, so we stay till midnight, because the customer's not weighing up photographers, they're not in that frame of mind. What you can do is you can connect, well, what is the benefit of that feature of my business? So I'm a photographer, I don't have a time limit, I'll stay till the end. So what is the benefit of that? Well, the benefit of that is we're going to catch these epic party moments that happen at 11:30 that most photographers are going to miss. Most people are going to be home and backing up the images at that point in time. So you're going to catch these moments, these legendary party moments that most people miss, I guess. So you can emphasize that. So you start to craft a piece of copy around, and you curate the image selection that you want to focus on there around the fact that you have this feature. We're not talking about the feature, we're talking about you're going to love these photos that we get that no one else gets when your guests have their hair down, and we're taking the emotional impact of that and trying to communicate that through our copywriting and through our image selection. So social media, we have to be aware we are interrupting. So when we are interrupting, we're not comparing features with other businesses. That's pointless. We are emphasizing the emotional impact of our specific service. And again, it has to come back to that differential factor that we talked about in episode 1. What is it about you? Why you in particular? So that's the message. It's never, I'm a photographer. It's never, I'm a photographer and my hours are these, or I deliver a USB and a bunch of prints and blah, blah, blah. It's, I'm a photographer and this is the emotional impact that you get when you book me particularly. That's the level of thinking that we're trying to develop when we're then crafting material to put on social media. The second thing in terms of the context of this that we want to consider is, so your customers on social media, they're swiping up Facebook, they're looking for stuff to keep them amused. The window of opportunity you have here is tiny, right? You're hoping to land between swipes, you're hoping to land by some miracle on the Facebook feed on the Instagram feed of a prospective future customer. So what does that tell us about the type of content that we want to serve up? Well, for the first thing it tells me is that wasted language of any kind is just a mortal sin. Like the idea that you would use long sentences where short sentences will do, the idea that you would have unnecessary communications, weak calls to action in particular. That's a particularly good example. If you have weak calls to action in your copy, and bear in mind how hard it is to get on this feed in the first place, and how much resource or money or effort it takes to get onto the Facebook feed or the Instagram feed of a prospective customer. You've landed there and you're using weak calls to action. A weak call to action would be something like, hey, if you want to know a little bit more about our service or our business, feel free to get in touch. The reason that's a weak call to action is because that applies, first of all, to every business in the history of businesses. So any business wants their customer to get in touch. We understand as the Facebook user that if I want to know more about your service, I have the option of getting in touch. So you shouldn't waste the time that you've managed somehow miraculously to obtain on your prospective customers' Facebook feed by telling them that they have the option of getting in touch with you. That's not to say you can't use a get in touch call to action. You're going to want to be a little bit more assertive than that, and you're maybe going to want to incentivize it a little bit more as well. But we don't want to use these long-winded sentences, and we don't want to state the completely obvious, such as you can get more information from me if you get in touch. Everyone knows that. That's a waste of everyone's time. The next thing is teasing future content. So this is an interesting one. There are arguments for teasing your future content, and there are arguments for not teasing your future content. To me personally, I think if you're working with an unlimited budget, then it doesn't necessarily hurt. But I almost feel if you're Star Wars, you should tease your upcoming content, right? If you're Beyonce, you should tease your upcoming album. Although, well, actually Beyonce doesn't necessarily do that. The point I'm making is when you're not Star Wars, you're not Nike, you're not Coke, maybe you want to take all the effort and all the resources that it takes to get onto your customer's newsfeed, and instead of spending all that energy and time and money to get on there to say, hey, stay tuned, I've got this other thing coming up that I'm going to spend more energy and money and time getting back on your newsfeed. Maybe what I want to do is just have the thing and then launch that, and there is no tease, because I'm small enough that, number one, is anyone really that excited to see what comes next from me? And number two, do I want to divert critical resources to going, hey, this thing's coming up? I don't necessarily know that I do. I think what I really want to do is, so I have the thing ready and then I'm going to promote it so that the viewer that I've managed to get interested, again through this combination of luck and money and resources, well, they're interested so they can look right now. They can come and just enjoy the product right away, or they can get in touch right away, or whatever it is, instead of making them think, oh, well, I'll guess I'll try and remember that, and in a few days' time when this wedding band posts their new promo, I guess I'll try and remember to go on their Instagram. Just show me the promo, just let me click through so I can see it right away. I think that's, again, if you're dealing with a large budget and you have money to burn, or if you have a very, very good social media engagement audience, you know, if people are just engaging with you all the time and you can do no wrong, then tease things all you like. But if, like most of us, it's hard work and it takes time and money to get stuff in front of people, use that time and money wisely, and instead wait until the thing's ready and just stick it out there in the world and promote it there and then, in my opinion. Next thing is regards context. Talk about the user, don't talk about you, right? And this ties in with my next point. You're actually writing, or you're posting for the user that hasn't heard of you. So even though we post a bunch of stuff to engage our existing community, and that's important to keep yourself fresh in the minds of the people that already know who you are, realistically, every single time we make a post on social media, we are hoping that that post lands again on the timeline of the prospective customer that's never heard of us, because that's where the next customer relationship comes from. That's where the next injection of cash comes from for the business, is this new next relationship. So given that that's the case, we need to consider that when we write everything that we write. So first of all, we don't talk about ourselves, because we don't want to assume a pre-existing relationship at all. Talking about yourself is a great way of, I'm flicking through my Facebook feed and I've never heard of you, and you're talking about yourself. What is there for me to be interested in? Instead, we want to give the impression that the content that we're putting on that feed is genuinely for that person. It's a gift to them. Again, content marketing approach. This is a gift to you. Even if you're a cake maker and it's just a blog about a cake you did for this person, give us your best spin. Give us the best version of that post that you can, that says, hey, you're going to find something of value for your wedding inspiration, for your wedding planning journey. Give us at least the impression that there's something there for me when I click through. Because if you're talking about you and I don't know who you are because I'm this new customer, what reason do I have to not just swipe past? So then you're just wasting. So you were on my timeline, and I am a prospective customer looking for a cake maker, but you spoke about yourself, and I don't know who you are, and I flicked on past. One of the most egregious examples of this, photographers have a tendency, and I've seen this throughout the photography universe, to use language along the lines of, oh, I finally blogged, guys, I finally got round to blogging. The problem with that, so number one, you're talking about yourself. Number two, honestly, like even your existing engaged community, for the most part, haven't noticed that you didn't blog for 3 months. Your mum might not have noticed that you didn't blog for 3 months. You're sitting there cocooned in panic about the fact that, oh God, I haven't blogged for 3 months. No one else is experiencing that perspective whatsoever. Most people haven't noticed that you haven't blogged for 3 months. Certainly the person on whose Facebook page you arrived for the very first time, that prospective new customer, has no idea who you are, really doesn't care that you never blogged until now, and is not ready to celebrate with you the fact that you've now succeeded in posting a blog. So instead, what's in that blog that is of genuine value or prospective value to this new customer, this potential new customer? What's in there that can inspire that customer, dependent on what type of wedding they're having? Or like, let's take the content of the blog and let's sell it to this prospective customer for best results. A couple of little technical considerations or placement considerations. So we want to think about the position of the stuff that we put in there. The fold, and by in this case what I mean is, if you write a long enough post on Facebook or on Instagram, you'll get see more or continue reading. So maybe we want to make sure that all of the most pertinent information, the reason for clicking, the reason to engage, that stuff should be before that continue reading, before that see more section, because fairly obviously you're then expecting someone to click continue more so that they can then click your link, or so that they can then understand why it's of value to them. You're putting another barrier in front of the customer, and you're also expecting them to join you on this journey without them having necessarily been given the information as to why it's relevant to them in the first place. So you want to place that stuff at the start of the post. You want to have the link, if you're including a link, if it's a Facebook post, you want to have that link as close to the top as you can, so that anyone who is inclined to click because of your hard work and endeavour can do so like that. They can clearly see where they're to click. And again, you're just removing some of the friction from allowing your customer to engage with you in the way that you want them to engage in the first place. Similarly, encourage people to share the content, to tag a friend, that kind of thing. That's all good. Obviously, we know that some of the new steps taken by Facebook, and we can expect that this will be true of Instagram as well, are designed to circumvent that, designed to stop it happening. So you maybe need to be a little bit more creative with the language that you use there. But if you can encourage people to share that content more widely within the community of people that are like-minded to them, then I think that at least, again, assuming you don't fall prey to the algorithm that is making sure you're not doing this, or the detection systems that they use to make sure that you're not doing this, if you can circumvent those but still encourage engagement, then as in still give a blatant call to action to engagement, then I think that's helpful. Because you do ultimately, like if you've arrived on the Facebook feed of someone that is a prospective customer and they have been engaged with your content, well, you want to give them, you want to have in mind, what do I want next from this person, and just tell them, do this, because sometimes it works. Click here, or join the Facebook group, or get in touch. That stuff works sometimes for whatever reason. People just sometimes do the thing that you tell them to do if they're engaged by your content. So give it a try, but again, make sure that that's positioned early enough in the post that it's not buried underneath a read more. The last thing is, I think you should mix things up and just try a bunch of different types of things. This is all an experiment for everyone. The boundaries are changing all the time. You never know what people are going to respond to. So just try a bunch of stuff and see what sticks. Different types of posts, different times of day. There's been people, so in the Facebook group that we created for this series, there's been a lot of people have alluded to the fact that they'd love to have just a social media cheat sheet. It's like, well, what do I do and when do I do it? That's different for every single business in the world. There is no social media cheat sheet. There are aggregated data that you can find that describes when people are online and things like that. This might be completely irrelevant for your needs, because the customers that you have might be on a completely different schedule from the general aggregated data that we see in this type of blog from Ad Espresso and things like that. So you're just going to have to figure it out by experimentation and by knowing how to read your insights and by knowing when to stop doing this thing that hasn't really worked for you for 3 months. I think it's a big experiment and it's an ongoing experiment, and that's the key to it, is not to be disheartened when something doesn't work. If something doesn't work, it might have been bad luck, it might have been that one particular piece of content rather than the type of content, so maybe you try it another few times. If it's not working consistently, then you're quick enough hopefully to move on and try something else. It's all one big experiment, and I think it's really important to keep working away at that experimentation, because you never know the thing that you're going to end up doing that's going to stick with someone. Try long posts, like I said, try detailed, here's a piece of my work and here's all the thinking that went into it, because people sometimes just like detail for almost, not for detail's sake, but people like to see makers talk about their work. People love to see that stuff. A bunch of us in this industry are makers, so tell us about what you were thinking when you did this, why you made this creative decision and that, and put them into these long form sort of micro blogging social media posts and just see if they work out, and maybe they will. That's just some of the ways that you can try and sort of mix it up and experiment and make sure you're not just doing the same thing over and over again, because that probably will have the potential to fatigue your audience and to be less successful the more you try it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically show you how we take one of these episodes and apply our own social media strategy to it and apply our own content marketing strategy to it, and I'm going to show you basically how we work through that from start to finish. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this particular content marketing strategy for the Web Marketing 101, and I'm going to talk about how that then manifests in the social posts that we make and what our future plans for it are. So the strategy for us, so first of all, the decision to create this content was obviously in direct response to the fact that a lot of our prospective customers are in the wedding market and need some help with how they present their brand, how they kind of use their website to gain sales. This is the kind of thing that we can do for them, and then we've got this marketing experience and advice that we can share with them as well, so that they can take care of the marketing side of it themselves, come to us for the creative fuel that they need in order to sort of best achieve those goals. So that's the principle, and so therefore we're attracting the attention of those people by giving them away this content for free. So we formed this Facebook group to encourage greater engagement, and that seems, broadly speaking, to work quite well. When we launch a post, so the first thing that we do, again January 2018 strategy, is that we post the video itself on Facebook. So we plug it a day ahead of time. We actually plug it on Instagram stories, so that you know that it's coming up. We also plug it ahead of time in the group so that people know how to watch it, and then we edit it once it's online to say online now. So previously, before this goes online, it just says episode 2 how to watch, gives you descriptions, and then once it's online, I'll edit that to say online now, and it'll be pinned to the top of the page. It'll describe what's in there, and I'll just post it along with the thumbnail of the video, which, as you can see, is the thumbnail ultimately that we use on social media. I'm going to look at the copy that we post alongside the video. So here's episode 2. It's the last episode that we did. Here's our thoughts on how wedding suppliers can pitch their pricing and how they can begin to show up in relevant searches. Someone in your life that needs to see this, let them know below. So first of all, let's look at that. Someone in your life that needs to see this, let them know below. So that there is, that's my way of saying tag a friend that needs to see this. But what I'm trying to do there is not use terminology that's going to get me caught up in Facebook's sort of detection technology that prevents you from doing that kind of thing. So someone in your life needs to see this, let them know below. I think that's a fairly agnostic way of asking people to tag their friends or send the video or share it or whatever it is. I've then included 3 links. One is for some immediate context on what this series is about, so you click on that and you're just going to get the context on what the January bootcamp is and how you participate. You can also sign up for the email updates, and it gives you the schedule. There's a second link, which is the Facebook group. So because I'm posting on Facebook, I'm going to post a link to the Facebook group, and that encourages you to join in for the live Q&A. And then Go Further is our Let's Work Together, which is basically a landing page that's designed for the people in this, for the people that have been watching this content that want to work together on some future stuff. There's just some information about what we do there, the type of services that we can offer, I'm not giving away pricing at this point because basically everything is priced bespoke anyway, so it's very difficult, in fact, to sort of say, well, this is what a website would cost. How do you cost a website without having a brief? Impossible. We ask for very basic information then to get in touch, and then we ask a few questions and we get back with pricing. So a landing page that's designed for the Wedding Market 101 people in particular also goes in the post. And so those are the 3 links that we've put in that post. Now, we've had a very, very basic summary of what's in the video, how wedding suppliers can pitch their pricing. So I'm identifying the audience there. So I'm trying to catch the attention of, do you fall into this bracket? So if you do, if you're a wedding supplier, then hopefully when this lands on your newsfeed, you'll be caught by that and you'll give some consideration to watching it, how they can pitch their pricing, how they can begin to show up in relevant searches. So I'm basically saying, here's the value you're going to get out of this piece of content straight away. And here's who you are. And then I've given a little bit of a call to action, and I've given 3 different places that you can go to develop further. So that's pretty much the anatomy of the typical Facebook post, and I think that the previous one will have been in a very similar format. Yeah, so again, same 3 links, and here's how to stand out in the crowded wedding market with a brand that's got your best qualities front and centre. So this time, crowded wedding market. So I'm speaking to an issue, a problem that we hope to solve, standing out in this crowded market. I'm also saying wedding market to again identify that target customer. So although we're boosting these posts and we're using good targeting, and we'll get into targeting and spending money on posts in our last video, the next installment, this here identifies the audience, so you're doubling down on that. So even though you've targeted that audience, you're also identifying the audience by name here. Again, you're giving them a reason to want to watch. You're giving this fairly crafty sort of engagement call to action, and then you've got 3 links to see more, to join in the group, and to go further, which ultimately becomes a lead. So that's the strategy once we post those things on Facebook. The last thing to note then is that we do promote the posts and we respond to all the comments. We're getting really good engagement on this stuff. I'm really happy with the engagement we're getting in here. And then you've also got the group in which there's further engagement on everything. As you can see, I don't really want to stop on a particular post that isn't mine. The future plan for this then, to further the sort of longevity of it, is that we're going to upload these things upload each episode to YouTube. We're going to create a blog post with an audio out as well, so that there's a multimedia user experience, like we talked about in the last episode, that there's a school of thought that Google will favour the multimedia experience that's been presented to the user. We're going to obviously make sure that those titles and those descriptions on the blogs and on the videos are optimized for the type of keywords that we're going to be targeting based on the keyword research that we would do, again, that we covered in the last video. And we're also going to make sure that the YouTube video links to the blog post and that the blog post links to the YouTube video. What we then do, of course, with those big Wedding Market 101 blogs is we link out to other content that's on our blog, both now and in the future, that are going to be of some further use. And again, what you're doing there is just providing more value, more useful information, but at the same time exposing people to more of your sort of work. And as long as you're continuing to give that value while you show them that work. So let's look at, so there's the nice branding that we did for the Neatly Wrapped Aromatics Go. So we want you to look at that and we want you to like it, because that's part of our goal with our content marketing strategy in general. But we're also giving away, so here's some of the differential factors that we wanted to emphasize with that business, with this branding. And then here's our rationale as to how the packaging of the product actually went ahead and emphasized said differential factors. Okay, so that wraps it up then for the 3rd episode. In the final episode, we're going to be talking about how to spend money on marketing, and I'm going to do a little case study on how we launch promotional material and get bookings for a particular wedding fair or wedding event. That'll be in the next episode. Once again, thanks so much for joining us, and if you appreciated the content, if you got anything out of it, I'd love to hear what you thought in the comments. And we've got the Facebook group that you can join to get involved in the Q&As. We're going to be doing the Q&As as usual shortly after the video is published. And thanks very much.